talk about professionalism a little bit today. And one of the things you need to know is when I took over the program 4 years ago, it was a wonderful pre-med program or pre-health program. We tend to overemphasize medicine. But as I took seriously the title of the program, the Pre-professional Health Sciences program, I was attuned to, or the thing that stood out to me was the idea that it was a pre-professional program. And I guess that's important is because in the process of thinking about the program and thinking about our students, I thought about how difficult it is or how unfair the expectation is that we would have these 17, 18, 19-year-olds up to 21 and maybe a little bit older who we were requiring to act in a very unnatural way. That is, we were expecting them to be very focused in their studies, schedule all their time, and conduct themselves as professionals both in the classroom but also in their volunteer experiences and shadowing experiences. And most of their colleagues are off eating ice cream, playing basketball, doing all kinds of things. And here they are expected to be little 30-year-olds. Because in some ways, I think it's reasonable to expect a 30-year-old to be professional or mature adult, which is an aspect of professionalism. So the term professionalism or professional first emerged, I think, in the English lexicon in the mid 19th century, 1859 or something like that. And but still, it's difficult to nail down what exactly it is. One can imagine a doctor that's professional, unprofessional, a principal that's professional, unprofessional, even a kindergarten teacher that's professional, unprofessional, or a professional pizza maker, or soccer coach, or soccer team. It's a very elastic term, and I think part of what professionalism captures is someone who's an expert, who has a mastery of a certain body of knowledge or certain um, art form or certain skill set. But there's also the possibility of thinking about it in terms of accountability, altruism, entering a social contract with society, caring for others. Um, and there's a number of other things one can consider when one invokes the term or evokes the term professional. You meet people, and if they're professional, you know it, and they may be very casual. They may not be in a suit. Someone else may be suited and booted, as we say in my community. And yet, the effect of their engagement or their service is not yet, not quite professional. So today, I'll be interested in seeing how our students are thinking about their um, their definition of professional based on reading by David Tipton. We were blessed to find, or I was blessed to find this book by David Tipton, Personal and Professional Growth for Healthcare Professions, um, around the time I began thinking about this idea. So this is our Bible for the program, or one of the most important books that our students should own or have to purchase and read. And so today, I look forward to hearing what our students hearing and seeing what they prepare, but also having conversations with our students around professionalism. We definitely want to move away from a very superficial and corny and robotic notion of professionalism to something that's richer, more natural, more spontaneous, and and it's something that our students feel comfortable with because they are figuring out what are age appropriate and activity appropriate ways of being professional as undergraduate students.
Professionalism is a complicated word that covers a large domain of concepts where it's really hard to pin it down to just one concept, but it's clear that it first begins with the exterior. When you meet someone for the first time, you see them with your eyes, and they illustrate a certain image to you. Are they giving you a friendly energy or an angry energy or a negative energy? Um, so that's why a big part of professionalism is just dressing well. Um, One writer, Anna Reisman, talks about how doctors are taught to evaluate patients as disheveled or well groomed, but without any self-reflection. Doctors also have to professionally dress. They have to dress themselves in a way that shows they are ready to meet you and do their job well. For example, expensive clothes can often create a sense of distance between the patient and the physician.
But to be attentive and to be interested in the person, the situation, those are all things that are communicated really well by your posture, your eye contact, and just those simple little initial impressions of who you are and why you were in a place, why you were talking with a certain person.
A really important part of professionalism is active listening, and this is to let the person that you're communicating with know that you're paying attention to them, you care about what they're talking about, and that you're respecting their time and what they're saying. And a part of this is knowing when to talk and when to appropriately ask a question, and to not interrupt someone, but also comment enough to show that you are engaged. And another part is asking smart questions that show that you are paying attention to what the person was saying and you acknowledge that what they said was valid and important.
Professionalism is not just on the outside, it's also something that is a relationship that goes on through time for a long period of time. You're going to portray yourself as a person who is professional. In the end, it's a lifestyle that you choose to, be present with people, be accountable, be confident without imposing your own pride onto people. You give a sense of humility. It's very complicated, but it's a way of life that allows you to work well with other people, and it expands more than just what you're wearing.
And so then as we go deeper into professionalism on the interior, who you are deeper down, beyond that first impression, beyond that initial glance, one of the first things that is really going to establish who you are as a professional is honesty and integrity. And so I would say that those are things that demonstrate a lot of self-respect and respect for others. When you're being honest, you are consistent in who you are. You never have to fib at all. You don't need to try to make something up on the fly, because if you're always yourself, then you're not going to go wrong. You don't have to worry about not being consistent and not being respectable, because as cheesy as it is, honesty is the best policy.
Communication plays a really big role in professionalism. You need to be able to communicate with your peers, with the people who work above you and also below you. Tipton talks about in his book several points of communication that I believe are especially important. One part of this is active and empathetic listening, which we talked a little bit about earlier on, but I think the empathetic listening is something to especially touch on that shows that you genuinely care about what they're saying. Further, acknowledging and understanding another's point of view. So you need to be respectful if someone holds a different view than you and handle that in a very mature and reasonable way. Thirdly, listening to ourselves and kind of giving ourselves a check of, is what I'm saying appropriate? Does what I say in the correct context? Does it have appropriate meaning? Fourthly, only interrupting when useful and appropriate. So making sure that you're not cutting someone off and that your words aren't just fill-in words, but that you have thought about them and have been methodical about what you're going to say. And finally, at the end of an interaction with someone, you reflect on it and you think about, did I act appropriately? Was I responsible? And making sure that you check yourself again on that, and that if you did say anything that you might have thought came across in the wrong way, that you correct that and are better prepared for the next time that you are interacting with someone. Also, professionalism isn't just checking off a list of competencies. It's more than that. It is an attitude and a part of your everyday. Professionalism starts now, when we are in the middle or in the beginning or at the end of our academic career. It's really important that as students we start to prepare, because when we graduate we are entering into the professional world and we don't pick up on the attitudes and habits of a professional with a light switch. It's more than that, and it's something that we need to prepare for over these 4 years. Tipton mentions that when we come to college, we're entering into a 4-year job interview. And that doesn't mean that everything that you do and every interaction that you have with someone is going to be right. And we will mess up and fail, and that is okay. But the important part is that a professional knows how to acknowledge their mishaps, acknowledge how they have been mistaken, and act accordingly. This means apologizing, responding in an appropriate way, and avoiding future failures of similar types in the future.